Where's the bride? No bride would wear something that ridiculous. That voice, sharp as a blade, was one I'd known all my 32 years. The owner of that voice was my sister, Nicole. She stood at the entrance of the bridal room, our parents behind her entire posture radiating contempt. Her gaze stabbed straight at the wedding dress I had chosen for this day, a one-of-a-kind creation born from a collaboration with a renowned contemporary artist, adorned with hundreds of butterfly wings cascading down the train. It was a piece of art, a symbol of transformation, from the old me into someone new, like a chrysalis breaking open into a butterfly. Are you seriously going out there like that? You look like you're going to a Halloween party. Mom, look, Heather's lost her mind. My mother sighed theatrically, and my father crossed his arms and said nothing. But I could see it in their eyes, their silent agreement. It's just a joke, Heather, my mother said, though her voice carried no warmth. But Nicole does have a point. It's a bit extravagant, don't you think? Ryan's family might laugh at you. Laughed at. That was always the standard they lived by. Other people's opinions, appearances, and above all, the safety of being normal within the bounds of what they could understand. That measuring stick had been pressed against me my whole life, cutting away everything that didn't fit. And now, on what was supposed to be the brightest day of my life, they had barged in once again, uninvited, and raised that same stick in my face. But that day, I was different. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The butterflies sewn into the fabric shimmered quietly in the light. This was no costume. This was the shedding of my armor, the wings I had grown to finally fly free. I turned slowly to face them, my expression calm, and said softly, "If you don't like it, then don't look. This is my wedding. I'll wear what I want." My voice was steadier than I expected. It was the first line in the counterattack I had rehearsed countless times in my head. For a brief moment, they were speechless. They hadn't expected me to fight back. Normally, I would have just looked hurt and backed down. But Nicole quickly recovered, snorting. "Still putting on that tough act, huh? I bet even Ryan's getting tired of you. A wife who dresses like that? How embarrassing for him." Those words were the signal. It was time to move on to the next phase of my plan. I met Nicole's sneer head-on, my face utterly expressionless. Then, slowly, but with deliberate, unwavering steps, I began walking toward them. The three of them flinched as I approached. I stopped a few steps away, met each of their eyes, and spoke in a low, even voice. "You're right. My outfit is embarrassing. I understand that now. But the thing you should really be worried about isn't my dress." At the sound of my unusually low voice, my mother's expression turned wary. "What do you mean by that?" "I mean it literally. What you should be worrying about is your own money." The moment those words left my mouth, the air in the bridal room froze. Nicole broke the silence first, laughing shrilly. "What? Money? What are you even talking about, Heather? Has the wedding stress finally made you lose it?" Up until then, my father had remained silent like a wall, but now, for the first time, he spoke. "Heather, don't make a scene. You think you can threaten us on a clerk's salary? Stop embarrassing yourself." A clerk's salary. There it was, the illusion I had let them believe for years. I had been waiting for those words. I had baited them just to draw this reaction out. Yes, just a regular office worker. Exactly what you've always thought I was. I smiled faintly. That's why it's always puzzled me. How easily you could ask me for money. As if my bank account were somehow yours. My mother flew into a rage at that remark. "Of course it is. We're family. You're the eldest. You have a duty to support your parents and your sister. It's not like you need the money anyway." Duty. To them, my income had never been the result of my own effort. It was a shared family asset, theirs to use as they pleased. My life, to them, was nothing more than an obligation to be consumed for their convenience. And then I made them say it out loud. There was no hesitation left in me. I drew in a slow breath, then brought down the blade of truth I had kept buried deep inside for years. Yes, that's why I used that money with no purpose to pay for Nicole's 3 years of college tuition. At my calm confession, all three of them froze. The mockery vanished from Nicole's face, replaced by bewilderment. "What are you talking about?" "You didn't hear me? Your state university tuition. The emergency down payment for your apartment. The car, The medical bills, altogether about $100,000. It wasn't a scholarship, and it wasn't from our parents. It was from me. It was the truth, documented to the last dollar, undeniable and complete. My father's face turned a blotchy red, his shame and rage twisting together. What the hell are you trying to pull by bringing this up now? He was furious because I had broken the family's unspoken rule, because I had dragged into the open what was supposed to stay hidden, turning it into a weapon against their control. You agreed to help. Don't you dare use that against us now like you're owed something. His voice thundered through the room, but I didn't flinch. His attempt to twist the argument only made me colder inside. Agreed? I responded to my father's words with a question, then continued, my tone cold and unyielding. Did any of you ever ask what I actually do for a living? Did you ever bother to know what I earn? No, you never did. You just decided I was a single, lonely office worker and used me as your personal ATM. You hid behind that illusion you created? Because we're family. Because you're the eldest daughter. And you trapped me in guilt. That wasn't an agreement. That was coercion. You never once tried to truly know me. Then I threw her own words back at her, the ones my mother had once used to crush me. Do you remember, Mom? You said, saving money is the only thing that makes you happy. Didn't you? Maybe you were right. But I've decided I'm done spending that one source of happiness on you. I spoke each word deliberately, like a verdict. From this moment on, all financial support for Nicole ends. Completely. The silence that followed exploded like a bomb. Their faces contorted, rage, panic, disbelief, realizing that the golden tree they had expected to keep giving forever was gone. My mother was the first to recover. Don't you dare. Do you even realize what you're saying? Who do you think you are, turning your back on this family? Her voice cracked into hysteria, the mask of composure shattering completely. Nicole's still a student. If you abandon her, what's going to happen to her? That's for Nicole to figure out. She's not a child anymore, I said coldly. And besides, you're her parents. You can take care of your own daughter from now on. You ungrateful girl, my father roared, taking a step toward me, his bulk towering. But I didn't move. What held me up right now wasn't fear. It was my resolve. Just then, a soft knock came at the door. Our wedding planner peeked in, her voice gentle but firm. Heather, it's almost time. All the guests are seated. Her calm professionalism washed over the tension like cold water. Right. This wasn't a sealed room. Beyond these walls, the celebration of my new life was waiting to begin. My mother's lips trembled with fury as she glared at me, hatred burning in her eyes. Fine, for now. But after the reception, you'll regret this. That final line told me she still believed she had the upper hand. Nicole's face twisted in frustration, tears glistening as she followed my mother out, slamming the door behind her. My father shot me one last bitter look and left without a word. After the three of them stormed out like a passing tempest, silence once again settled over the room. Alone at last, I let out a long, steady breath. Then I sensed the door open softly behind me. Turning around, I saw Ryan, flawless in his tuxedo, standing there with a gentle smile. He said nothing, just walked up and took my hand in his. Are you all right? At the sound of his gentle voice, I lifted my head. Then, with a radiant feeling welling up from deep within me, I gave him a confident, beaming smile. Yeah, I feel amazing. The doors to the banquet hall swung open. The moment Ryan and I stepped inside, the room erupted into thunderous applause and warm, heartfelt cheers. The chandeliers glittered like diamonds. The flowers adorning each table shimmered like precious jewels. It was a breathtaking sight. An audience of elegance and admiration gathered too. Celebrate us. And yet, at one corner table, a strange chill hung in the air. A stagnant, heavy silence that seemed to belong to another world. My mother and Nicole still hadn't cooled off from their anger in the bridal room. Their arms were crossed, their faces hard, their eyes darting sharply around the venue. They surveyed the elegant hall and the sophisticated guests, whispering to each other. Heather must have overextended herself just to show off. And look at these guests, so far above her station. It's embarrassing for someone who's just an office worker. They probably thought their voices were low, but in the tense air of the reception, every drop of their malice reached me as clearly as if they had shouted it. They still truly believed deep down that I was nothing more than a slightly extravagant, arrogant office worker's daughter. That's why they dismissed my declaration in the bridal room as nothing more than bravado. Empty words from a daughter cornered by financial pressure. They had no idea that what they were about to witness would shatter their narrow-minded values to the very core. Casting them a brief glance, I gently slipped my arm through Ryan's. He leaned close and whispered in a voice only I could hear, "Let's enjoy this." I nodded and walked with him toward the main table, where our true friends, the ones who genuinely celebrated our happiness, were waiting for us. Behind me, the table where my family sat faded into the distance, like the wreckage of another life. The reception curtain rose quietly. What was beginning then was the prologue of my new life, and the first chapter of their long waking nightmare. The atmosphere was soon filled with warmth and laughter. Then the host took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome a very special guest tonight, Ms. Alexandra Watson, the world-renowned CEO of the luxury fashion brand. She will now deliver her congratulatory speech for the bride and groom." The moment her name was announced, the room erupted in murmurs of admiration. She was a true titan of the fashion world, someone seen in magazines and on TV every single day. I turned my gaze toward my family's table. They were exchanging incredulous looks, mouthing, "It must be someone else with the same name. There's no way that Alexandra Watson would come here for Heather." But when the spotlight illuminated the stage, there was no mistaking her. It was her, Alexandra Watson herself, radiant, poised, and utterly commanding. With graceful steps, she took the stage and turned toward me with a warm, genuine smile. "Heather, Ryan, congratulations on your marriage. The dress Heather is wearing today, titled Metamorphosis, is, in my eyes, one of the most moving and beautiful wedding gowns I have ever seen. This isn't just a garment, it's a masterpiece that embodies her soul." Alexandra first lavished praise on my dress. It was a powerful blow, striking directly at my family's faces, the same faces that had mocked it as a Halloween costume just moments before. Nicole's face was drained of color. My mother stared, wide-eyed, as if the world itself had turned upside down. But the real blow came next. But Alexandra continued, "What I admire most about Heather isn't just her artistry. As many of you know, she is the founder and CEO of Eternal Moments, a luxury experiential gift service that has transformed its industry over the past 5 years. Her vision, her innovation, and her uncompromising leadership have redefined what experience-based gifting can be. As a fellow entrepreneur, I deeply respect her." Founder, CEO, transformed the industry. Each word landed like a bullet. From across the room, I could almost hear the sound of their illusions shattering. My father's mouth hung slightly open. My mother's body trembled, struggling to remain upright. It was in that moment they finally understood. That my words in the bridal room had been no bluff. That the daughter they had dismissed, belittled, and exploited for 32 years had built a world far beyond the reach of their narrow imagination. When Alexandra's speech ended, the hall erupted into applause so loud it felt like a living force. I then offered her a smile of gratitude. The sound of that applause, the warmth of those voices, it was all real. This was the reality I had fought, bled, and survived for. At the far corner, my family sat frozen, as if they alone had been left behind in a world that no longer recognized them. Then came Ryan's business partner, a charismatic CEO of a global tech company, who naturally took the mic. He spoke with humor and affection about how Ryan and I first met, filling the room with laughter. Ryan slipped an arm around my shoulders and whispered, teasingly, "All this talk about us. You're not getting bored, are you?" That boyish grin of his, so different from the confident businessman the world saw, made my heart grow light. And in that moment, my mind drifted back to the night we first met. Back to when there was no one who looked at me the way he does now. "Heather, I'd love to hear more about your company's next project." It was 3 years ago at an industry networking party. I had just gone independent, surrounded by skeptical eyes that weighed and judged me. Only Ryan had looked at me differently. "You're Heather from Eternal Moments, right? I read an article about you last month. It was inspiring." What he spoke of was my business itself. Despite being in the same industry, he regarded me not as a subordinate or a curiosity, but as a rival, and as a capable leader in my own right. That night, we talked until we forgot the time. He saw through the armor I had built around myself and told me, with genuine sincerity, that he respected my talent. Those were words I had never once heard from my own family. At that moment, I knew. He was my comrade in arms, my real family. The battle I had fueled solely by hatred was transformed, through meeting him, into a fight for hope, a struggle to build a future. I came back from my memories and looked up at Ryan, who was now proudly speaking about my achievements. In his eyes, I saw unmistakable love and respect, and I smiled back. Softly, but with strength. Yes, I was no longer alone. As if understanding everything without a word, he gently took my hand in his. The glamorous hours of the wedding reception passed by like a dream. After the last guest had left, Ryan and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. And that's when they appeared. My father, my mother, and Nicole. They stood there, pale as ghosts. The arrogance they had shown just hours earlier had completely vanished, replaced only by confusion and panic. It was my father who broke the silence first. His voice trembled as he forced the words out. "Heather, I'm sorry, we didn't know." His eyes wandered, unfocused, as if unable to believe the reality in front of him. Nicole kept her head down, staring at a single spot on the floor. My mother, on the verge of tears, pressed her hands together in a desperate plea. "Please, Heather, let's just be a family again." But I had no intention of listening to the rest. I cut off their sentimental apology, coldly, quietly. "I don't accept your apology. You're not sorry for what you did to me. You're sorry for losing your personal ATM and for missing the chance to boast about having a successful daughter." The three of them froze, their breath caught in their throats. "I don't have time for your theatrics anymore," I continued firmly. "Here's my final notice. From this moment on, I will no longer provide any financial support. Not a single dollar. If you still wish to have any relationship with me, it will not be as family, but as equals. As human beings. If you can't do that, then this is where our relationship ends." That was the moment I severed all ties. A few days later, as I expected, they showed up in front of my apartment building. It began predictably, with tearful apologies and pitiful pleas over the intercom. My mother cried, "Heather, please, just hear us out one more time. We were wrong. All of it was wrong." My father added in a contrived tone, "We just want to celebrate your success. That's all." Nicole, as usual, tried to prey on my guilt. "What am I supposed to do without you, Heather?" But when I refused to respond, keeping my silence, as cold and unmoving as stone, their tone gradually changed. Day by day, their desperation gave way to anger. After about a week, the mask finally fell off. Their true nature bared its teeth. "Heather, I know you can hear me, you ungrateful brat." My father's furious voice echoed through the quiet neighborhood. He had transformed. The pitiful father act was gone. What remained was the face of a tyrant, enraged at a daughter who dared to disobey. "You're a heartless monster, abandoning your own family. Who do you think made you what you are, you selfish, ungrateful child?" The shouting escalated, day and night without rest. They rang the doorbell repeatedly at dawn, pounded on my door in the middle of the night. Letters filled with resentment and venom were stuffed into my mailbox every single day. Worse still, they began spreading lies to my neighbors, telling anyone who would listen that they were poor parents betrayed by a greedy daughter who stole all their money. But I no longer hesitated. The old me might have caved under the pressure, trapped by that twisted idea of family bonds, afraid of what others might think. Not anymore, because now I had something far more precious to protect. A peaceful life with Ryan, the man who first saw me as an equal and loved me for who I truly was. And the future of my 50 employees, and their families, who believed in my dream enough to stake their lives on it. I would not allow those people, my family in name only, to defile the world we had built with their selfishness. In contrast to their hysterical behavior, I was astonishingly calm, because everything they were doing was exactly what I had expected. The high-end security cameras I had installed at the entrance and front door were recording their deranged behavior around the clock, saving every second to a secure cloud server. Their verbal abuse through the door was captured perfectly with my phone's recording app, preserved beyond question as evidence. The video and audio recordings were automatically uploaded in real time to a secure shared folder for my attorney, quietly, methodically, becoming a growing arsenal of evidence for the legal battle to come. The decisive moment arrived when they trespassed onto the apartment grounds and began kicking the tires of my car. I immediately called the police. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. My father shouted, "This is a family matter, stay out of it." But it was all in vain. When the officers asked for my statement, I simply tapped my phone and put it on speaker, connecting them to my attorney who had been standing by. Calmly, she explained the situation from a legal standpoint and provided direct access to the cloud-stored evidence. My father's defiance evaporated before my eyes. After receiving a stern warning from the police, they had no choice but to leave. That incident became the final piece of evidence, and the stage shifted to the courtroom. When we officially filed for a restraining order, they made one last, desperate attempt to defend themselves. At the hearing, my mother cried, "I just love my daughter, that's all." My father declared, "It is a child's duty to honor and support their parents," a speech that sounded like it belonged to another century. Nicole, ever the dramatist, tearfully insisted, "My life was ruined because of my sister." Their emotional appeals were nothing more than shallow performances, calculated to earn sympathy from the audience. But the law does not bend for emotion. When my attorney displayed the video recordings on the courtroom monitor and played back their shouting, the atmosphere shifted instantly. They couldn't bear to look at their own grotesque behavior on screen. After reviewing the mountain of documents before him, the judge spoke in a calm yet commanding voice. "Your claims hold no legal merit. The recorded evidence clearly shows threats, trespassing, attempted property damage, and stalking behavior. Blood relations do not justify criminal acts." Their arguments collapsed completely. In the face of hard evidence and the cold weight of the law, their emotional pleas meant nothing. In the end, the court ruled entirely in my favor, granting a restraining order prohibiting them from coming within 1,000 feet of me, my home, or my company. At that moment, my father shouted, "This is insane," before being restrained by security officers. As I watched their disgrace unfold, I knew this wasn't revenge. It was justice. A rightful, necessary act of self-defense. Their own reckless actions had brought upon them the final hammer of social consequence. Years have passed since then. Protected under the restraining order, my life has been astonishingly peaceful. Recently, my attorney called to inform me that the order was nearing expiration and asked whether I wanted to renew it. That was when I first heard about what had become of them. Nicole, it seemed, had dropped out of college. Once I stopped paying her tuition, my parents had no means to cover the exorbitant costs. Too proud to take any ordinary job, she drifted between part-time work, barely scraping by from day to day. The same woman who once mocked me for living only for my savings now struggled to pay her own rent. How ironic. As for my parents, their retirement plans had completely unraveled. Without my financial support, they were forced to sell the family home and moved quietly to a small city apartment. I heard that the neighbors pitied them, the poor couple abandoned by their successful daughter, while they still badmouthed me to anyone who would listen. They never once reflected on their own mistakes. As I listened to this report, I felt a surprising calm within myself. Hatred, anger, and even pity no longer stirred in my heart. They simply no longer existed in my life. They were nothing more than characters from an unpleasant story I had read long ago. Irrelevant. Forgotten. I set down the phone and turned toward the panoramic window of my office, gazing at the glittering city below. Behind me, Ryan, my husband and greatest business partner, was deep in discussion with our team about a new project. Their lively voices, their confident smiles, their shared passion to build a future together. This was what family truly meant. What is a real family? The one bound by blood gave me nothing. But the one I built, this circle of trust, respect, and shared purpose, has given me everything. True family isn't defined by blood, I thought. It's defined by those who see you, respect you, and walk beside you toward the future. I smiled quietly and walked toward the table where they were waiting. The butterflies that had once given me wings now soar freely beside me. My new family, rising higher and higher into the endless sky. My life, I realized, is only truly beginning now.